My name is Assis Flores. I may have a little accent because not my first language, English, but I've been here for over 40 some odd years. I'm a member of the ASHRAE, and I'm currently retired. I have my own business that I still manage, but doing this project, I thought it was a great way of me giving back a little to the community. So let me start with something so you have an idea what this is going to be about. Let me start.
One.
That's fine. Get it going. Okay, now Jeffrey, can you start 1 and 8, please? That's fine. Get it going.
Okay, hopefully that gave you a little preview, and this is, as I was saying before, is the second year. So we hope to do it better and bigger. So we want more students to participate on this event. To go along with that, we're going to give you some details about the project first. You as teachers are the mentors. You're the influencers of the thinking of these young students that are in your classes. So one of the things that I hope you can take away is that you're going to tailor your discussions about this challenge to the age appropriate for the kids. You might be talking 7th, 8th graders. You might be talking to 11th, 12th graders. So let's show you where some of those details are. The details are in the ASHRAE website. And by the way, this presentation is also located on that website. So you don't have to take too many notes, but when you go home, please take this information here. And the website is on that information. And you can print out this for your students to create and motivate interest. So if we were to go to, click on this link here, it would take you to the ASHRAE presentation webpage. And this is, for some reason, that particular sheet should be showing up here, but for some reason it's not. And we haven't had the time to find out why. But in here we have the date of the event. We have the flyer, which is the copies here on the table. Please be sure you take one of those with you. And we have this presentation. I'm not going to open those documents because, they're there for you to use. Another thing I would like to ask, to save time during the registration, the day of the event, there is a photo disclaimer sheet. Please add all your students or teams that are participating to make sure they fill one of those out so we have the proper thing. Maria?
You only need to fill it out if they do not want their photo taken and used. That's why it's a disclaimer.
Okay. All right. Super. Here is everything you need to know. If you click this link about the challenge, and this one here takes us to a different page. Let me show you. It's this page that contains all the details, the purpose of the challenge, the steamboat requirements, and there is some of the information you got to pass to your students. The size of the boat, the requirements to float, the depth of the water that the race is going to take place, and all the other pertinent information there. So make sure you become yourselves familiar with the requirements of the challenge. Part of that challenge also is to teach the students certain things. One, there is a presentation, either for the individual student or for the team. And that presentation is what we're trying to do here, is to teach them confidence and new skills, being in front of people and being in front of a judge. So if they go for a job interview later, they know what to expect. We'll be asking them 2 or 3 questions just to find out how do they respond to it. But one of the things we want to do, and we're going to try to evaluate their response to those. So we'll let some judges in there that are going to be talking to them. And finally, part of the presentation is basically there is a scoring sheet. And the scoring sheet is also loaded in the website. Print it out, show it to the students, how they're going to do. 80% of the points, or 80 points, is just if they win all the competitions that they race, they get the full 80 points. If they don't, they get less points than him. Then 15 points is for those presentations. The judges will award that to the students or to the team for their presentation skills. And the last 5 points is for innovation. In other words, did they just copy something, or were they being creative and doing something a little different? If they show some of that stuff, we'll give them more credit for those things. So be sure that you print this document because it's very, very important. The other thing, believe it or not, there is a lot of research on the website that has been done, and there is a lot of information about pop-up boats. And one of the reasons that we want to make sure, why do we call pop-up boats? Basically, it's a toy. It's a toy that if you go to the Amazon.com, you probably will see, if you search the Amazon.com, you'll see this little boat there for sale. It's $5 or less, or I don't know what the cost is, but it makes a little noise, and the noise that it makes when it's working is pop pop, because it's the repeated cycle of this process, and that's why we call it. But basically, it's a toy. It's a boat that contains a boiler or an engine that has no moving parts. It is powered by one tea light candle, and this is going to be the same power source for all the boats. So everybody will be competing using the same energy source. Therefore, how fast they're going to move and how fast it works is based on the design of the boat. And again, those are some of the points that we're going to try to give it to you. So when you mentor your students, you can ask the appropriate questions and make them thinking, because part of that is teaching them critical thinking. So make sure you use internet to do a little research, become familiar, and be aware of it. Understand the operating principles. Now, if you're really a mathematician and you like to get into math, there is a ton of equations and formulas to explain all that stuff. If you're dealing with 6, 7, 8, or any time between 10th grade and below, forget it. Don't spend too much time with that, because you're going to bore the kids and they're going to not want anything to do with this. Okay? But if you're teaching senior classes that are taking AP courses and doing calculus, they may want it, that might be exciting for them. And you may want to make part of your project to where they explore the science and the mathematics behind the project and the boat that they're building. There is internet information that gives you all the formulas and guides you to the process of how to do it. Let me go back a couple more things. And And then after you become familiar with those things, you're going to encourage them to build a boat. And again, we don't want them just to copy something that they've seen. We want them to be creative and innovative. Okay? Ask questions of them. Why they're doing that design? What do they think about it? How fast it's going to go? And it will give you a little bit more information. Then test it. If you have, you don't need much to test in a classroom. If you have a sink, if you're in a chemistry lab or something, they have a sink, just fill the sink up with water, and or take a bucket. We have a bucket here. A 5-gallon bucket, you know, fill it up with the water, and that's all you need to test. You can test the boat, see if, how long does it take to start popping, to start working, and start moving. And we didn't give you any timetables, but last year, which was the first time, it was, I think the winner was like 12 seconds to go from the beginning to the end. So that's a pretty good mark, and we'll give that on the future. We want to see if we can repeat the success of those races last year. So, innovation, make modifications to improve. If the design is too slow, teach them critical thinking. That's what engineering is all about. Why is your boat so slow? What can you do to make it better? Don't give them the answers, but you're the teachers, you know how to do that. Let them think about the solutions and what it takes to do that. So, in this page, you can go to this website here, or this link. It talks a little about construction, history, and principles of operation. Again, the principles of operation, we don't want you to get tied up with the mathematics and the calculus part of it, but be simple and understand the simple processes of that. So, why are we doing this? ASHRAE, with the cooperation and collaboration of the partnership that we have with O'Brien and Gear, we have some representatives here from that company, and the MOST, which is promoting science and technology, of course. We're collaborating with the local schools and community organizations. We have involved the Boy Scouts of America. We have a leader here, and Girl Scouts of America. That's true. And so we have engaged with those community organizations to encourage the students, the young minds, to embrace the STEM principles. And again, the STEM, I'm sure you understand that stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We want them to pursue those careers, you know, because a lot of people, everybody wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, a brain surgeon. You know, that's not for everybody. That is great careers in engineering. And we have a bunch of people, including myself, that's what my career was for many, many years, was an engineer. What have we done so far? In our first year, we have reached over 25 school districts last year. We have people from all over Central New York coming over. We have given the opportunity for over 400 people, teachers and students, to participate in this challenge. You saw the video. That video that we did was basically an example of the events of the race days and the activities. It is an awesome experience. And this year we're going to do it even better, because we have a junior cafe workshop or a meeting going on. So we have great speakers that are going to be talking. So the doors open at 9 o'clock. Between 9 and 10:30 or 10:45, we'll have those speakers talking about engineering and great things, and how steamboats relate to it. And then we have our competition. And so if the students bring the boats already with them, so when they're here, they're ready to go, okay? If you like math, there it is. You can get into these equations. Again, I say, don't get bogged down with these things. It's there for you. There is, in that one of the links, he talks about all the Newton laws, and and everything that you need to know about the mathematics. But don't get bogged down unless the students really want to do that. Okay? So what is the important part in order to have a little fun with this thing? Now that we use the internet for research, now that we have gone to the internet to get all the program details and everything, now we want to teach the kids to be creative. And we want to build boats because that's what they're going to be excited about. How do I build a boat? I have a couple examples. If we open this little link here, and let's try that. I don't think we opened that link, but we made it. Oh, here it is. This link, actually, in order to design and the model, you know, sorry about that. Let me turn this off. You can actually click there and you'll get a template that you can use. He does talk about in the beginning, and you should become familiar with. He talks about what is a pop-up engine and or some other names there. How this works. You know, keep it simple, and that's what that thing is doing. Keep it for the appropriate age level. We're talking about, you know, we have energy, and energy should be the major focus of your conversation with these young kids. We get a lot of energy from electric, from the water, from the sun, you know, which is the main source for us. So in this case, our energy source is going to be for everybody a little tea light candle. And through the chemical reaction of that candle and creating a flame and transferring that heat to convert water into steam, and then the properties of the steam expand as the temperature gets higher, pushes some of the water out, makes the boat go forward. Those are the simple principles, and you should be able to get those across the young kids. Because once they understand that, it says, oh wow, that is good. That is a great thing. I can make now, think of ways how I can make that better. So make sure you understand the simple principles of that, and then if we go through that, you can get a template, you can get a sheet metal. Even if you go to, if you know a mechanical contractor or on your schools, if there is a shop, you can go there and get a little simple sheet metal. You can glue this template, or in this case, if your mother uses oil, olive oil, you can cut the can, take the bottom, take the thing out, and glue those templates on it. Okay, cut it out, bend them, you know, make sure you bend this. Now, this is where I talk about age appropriate. For your higher kids, yeah, don't do this for them, let them do themselves. But do we want probably 4th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade dealing with soldering irons? Maybe, maybe not, depending how well they are in handling that type of equipment. You are the mentors. You're the ones that will decide. You or their parents supervise the kids in the proper things. But in this particular example, you'll see that using the soldering iron, you can seal and make the seams of this boat and create a hull. Then we talk about building a coil. As you can see, if you take a piece of copper, you know, you cannot just use your fingers to bend this thing, because every time you bend a tube without having either a spring on it to prevent it from kink, is like a hose. It's going to kink. Okay, and once it's kinked, it's done. So you have to apply heat to the right thing. You've got to use the proper tools and ways of doing it. It can be done. But you can make little coils, 2 or 3 coils, and you can make it happen. And again, the coil principle for your boiler, or using something different, which will have a couple examples. Making a boiler similar to this, it's probably simpler for younger ages. This might be more appropriate to do it. You've seen some examples here. Okay, so the selection of the boiler, depending on the boat, in this case, they're using a bigger boat now, maybe the coil approach is more appropriate. And again, they show you the details of how to put that in a boat. And they even created a little house to go in the top and fit over the coil and the candle. Now, why did they do that? Critical thinking now. Why did they put, because every time you add mass to the boat, now it's going to take more energy. So you're wasting that energy of that candle that is very important in carrying a bigger mass through the water, right? But here is the trade-offs. If you didn't have that house over your boiler, a lot of that energy and heat would be wasted, would go sideways and up, and like that, by containing and capture that under the house, you focus that energy on that coil and makes that efficient, that boiler more efficient. Do we agree on that? So the increase in efficiency in relation to the extra weight, those are some of the critical thinkings and testing. You actually, if you have anybody that goes that far, you can test it. How does the boat perform without the top? How does it perform with the top on? You know, what is the benefits? Does it make it better? See, you're teaching things. You're not just making or racing a competition. So the whole idea is to have fun doing this thing. The important part is making sure that when you design your boilers, that you test them before you put it in. Okay, make sure the old tire, leak test. Put it in the water, blow to the stores, no bubbles, you're sealed, you're good. If there is bubbles, make sure you assemble the tools that you have seen. It's very simple. Flat nose pliers. That's all you need for the construction of these things. Okay, and maybe a knife to cut and get started. The scissors, in this case I brought a little sheet metal in case you're working with the heavier metal, but if you're working with aluminum cans, you can do it with the scissors. And the other thing that, whether you do a simple boiler using this approach, or you use the coil, for the bigger approaches, these are all pieces. Here's an example that I've done. You have seen 1, 2, there is a bottle here, 3. Again, put something in the boat to easily replace those candles so they don't float around, okay? Think about other things, safety. We don't want you can make the boat go faster by lighting the entire boat on fire, but then it's not going to reach the other side of the raceway because it's going to sink, but you certainly get a lot of heat. So make sure it's safe. And stability. As you can see, this particular person designing this boat, it has the holes, thought about the stability, because if you put a bottle in the water, it's not going to be stable. It's going to roll based on specific design of the thing. By putting that thing in the bottom, you really increase the stability of the boat, because it acts almost like as a keel and as a rudder. So I want you not to tell them about all these things. Let them see and explore, but keep those things on the back of your mind. So when you work with your students, you can talk about the ratio of the size of the boat, the weight and mass of the boat, and those things in there. So we have shown you some of the tools. We have shown you some examples. I think it's time to do a little demonstration.
Some experimental boats, some made by me, because I wanted to figure out ways to help mentor my students that I had worked with last year, and some were built by them. So first thing we do is you have to prime the boat.
Again, priming the boat, why do we do that?
So when it starts out, this boiler is empty, so there's no water in it. And you don't want to run it like that because the seals around the edges that are glued or potentially soldered, however you do it, they don't like the heat. So when you got water in there, it keeps the heat down. You got heat coming out of the candle, but if it's working on a dry boiler, then you don't want that. It's going to wreck the boiler.
It will make steam, so it will.
Yeah, it's not going to run, but it's also going to potentially ruin the boat. So what I did was fill the syringe. Is a nice way to do it. If you have at least 2 of the exit your straws, exit tubes, then you can put the syringe in one and go till you get water out the other. Then you know the boiler is filled.
You can fill it up in a school water fountain too.
Yep. You want to keep it filled once you get it that way. So don't move it out. If you move it around too much, then you just want to refill it. Yeah. And you get soot on your hands too if you have run the boat before. So be aware of that. So I'm going to go ahead and light the candle. And it takes a little bit for the water to get warm enough.
Now, the competition, there's going to be a block here, so you wait till both boats start putting, and then they lift it up to get them going.
Yeah.
So there's not like...
There's a gate that it crosses both, and you lift it at the same time, so they'll both start at the same time. So.
And you can only have up to 2 minutes to wait for the boats to get ready.
Right.
Yep. If they're both ready before that, 2 minutes, and they're popping good, they can both agree, and then we'll let it go.
But yeah, there's no advantage of having one pot in 30 seconds versus 45 seconds. There's no advantage to that.
Depending on the height of the candle and the placement, these are all things, factors that matter. And you want to get the students to experiment with that to get it tuned. I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit here. Get a little more heat on it to see if we can get it started. You hear that popping noise. So the bottom of this particular engine is really thin, so it flexes as a steam bubble forms. It creates pressure and pushes out on the bottom. Then the steam bubble pushes water that's in the straw out, propels the boat forward. But then that steam condenses, right? So when it condenses, it shrinks by 1,600 times. So it goes up, and then it sucks water back in to recharge it. And then, but the diaphragm on the bottom goes in, so that makes the popping noise. Not all of them pop, so one with a coil doesn't have enough force to flex the coil, so they're silent, but
does it exhaust out both tubes or just one?
probably both.
Does it
Both.
exhaust both?
Yeah.
Good.
They're both the same.
Good question.
Yeah.
If you think about the principles of the simplicity, whether you have a boiler that has the 2 pipes
Or one pipe?
or 1 pipe,
Yep.
or you have 4 pipes, it really doesn't matter because they're both filled with water to start. And once you make steam, the pressure of steam, because steam has changed from the liquid form into vapor, expands, as Michael says, 1,600 times. So at that point, it pushes water out. And all these pipes here, again, depending on the design, how long they are, and everything else, but they all gonna relieve. There is nothing else to control. One pipe pushes out, and one pipe sucks it in. So it creates the force out. So you have 1 pipe, or 2 pipes, or 4 pipes, pushes it out, and then based on that explosion of the steam, then it creates a vacuum, and that vacuum inside of the boiler, when the diaphragm sinks, it sucks more water in, again, through the same pipes. Okay, so, and that cycle then repeats itself.
Yes.
You can have them make with one pipe, make it with two pipes, you know, see which one works better. See, teach them the engineering principle.
Science of experimentation.
The science of experimentation.
So this boat's been around a while. They do tend to, they don't age well, some of them. So this has epoxy bonds, and then you put the silicone, 100% silicone, on top of that to try and protect it somewhat from the heat, but still, it's not really designed to get too hot. So that's partly why it's not its best day. This did come in second place in the junior category last year, but sometimes they have good days and bad days too, depending on. They can be very temperamental.
You do the competition by grade level or
you
high
got
school?
two levels.
Two levels. Yeah, we have the junior level and the senior level. Okay, and we have awards, trophies for both levels. Where the flame is at least just on the upper part of it. You put something underneath it to help maybe, because underneath there is the plastic pipes and maybe didn't want to burn them or something with the heat. But by doing that, you're only using this part of the boiler for absorbing. If you notice some of the examples, the candle and the design of these things were a little higher so that you put the candle here and you have more surface to accept, you know, the heat. So that's what I'm talking about, engineering, and that's what I'm talking about, making sure that you experiment with things. I think if that candle were lowered, it would operate a little bit better. Okay, and sometimes the candles, when they're reused over and over again, the efficiency and the BTU of the candle gets reduced. That's why in every race we'll have candles there. We'll replace the
Get
candle.
a new candle every
So you always start with a new candle. Okay, to be fair to everybody. And again, these things, and when you see these problems, when working with the students, they're not problems, they are opportunities. Opportunities to educate, opportunities to teach them critical thinking, okay, and problem solving. That's the benefit of these things, okay? All right, we have probably another half an hour here. Let's wrap this thing up. How do we measure success on this project? Okay, and again, it's for you. This is information for you to take away. All right, if your students make the fastest boat and they win, you're going to have a very well-motivated kid or team because they won the race and they get the trophy group. But it's not all that. It's not winning that is important. What is important is to make sure they learn new concepts. Learning new concepts, that's why they go to school. That's what you're trying to do, is prepare them for the real world. And doing that is working effectively in teams. Most of the companies today outside, once you're done with the school, most of the school teaches students to be independent. You can copy, you can share. A lot of people are beginning to change those ideas in promoting, doing own work together and solving problems together and beginning to teach them of the concepts. But here in these projects, it's important that they learn to cooperate, they learn to cooperate and engage in teams effectively. Make sure that every member of the team is contribute to the team's success. Okay, and make sure that there is a leader, there is a guy who's doing the presentation, there is one guy that is going to do the testing, light up the candle. Encourage research, experimentation, and critical thinking. That's what we've been talking about. Don't solve their problems, let them think the solutions to their problems. Okay, thinking critically. And encourage them to experiment and research, because if everybody says, oh, I know how to make a boat, here's one, I'm going to make one just like it. Is that being creative or innovative. No, they're just copying somebody else's. And copying it, we say, hey, you got to make things better. How do you make a better one than that? You know? So this helps you ask the right questions of your students. They're engaged on the projects, how to make this thing fun, you know, which is the last one. To gain experience in talking in front of the judges, doing the presentations. You know, that's another thing. Teach them a little public speaking, being able to explain the principles, making sure they understand the principles of operation of the boat. Okay? And again, and the old focus and idea is to make sure that they embrace the STEM careers and the STEM principles. Now, let's talk about energy and power. And basically the first law of thermodynamics, where it says that energy is never destroyed. You know, it's the same energy. It can transform from one type of energy to another type. Some of them is wasted because of friction, because of heat that is just dissipated. But the energy is not destroyed. It's just transformed and reused. So, looking about energy is a source. The sun is the basic source for our natural cycle and sustainable life here in Earth. But we have other type of mechanical, electrical, and different type of energies. And power is how fast can we make that energy work and do the job. So if you have a car that has a big engine, yeah, you're going to go faster than a karting, a little car that has a little engine, a lawnmower engine type of thing. So those are simple terms to teach the kids the difference between energy and power and what you can do with all this energy. Again, let's go back to the boats. Again, this is for you and for your own benefit. Try to not be prescriptive on the boat design. Don't say, okay, everybody goes to eBay and buy this thing, and because that's might be as well as saying, here's a couple videos I demoed for you, go make a boat just like that. We wanted them to be more creative, come up with different designs, you know, make a pontoon instead of a boat. I don't know. Let them come up with something different. So encourage those ideas and principally ensure that they find what works and applies. You know, and use the STEM principle, you know, and follow the basic rules. Make sure that they understand what the rules are for the competition and do that. Then energy, power, and again, this is a little troubleshooting for you and a way of explaining to them, here's what happens, how to make the boat faster. Okay, requires less effort, move the boat. If you start with the same source of energy, you know, nobody has any more than the other, you know. And how can your boat be faster than the other? You know, do you go with a square boat? Do you go with a round boat? Do you go with different approaches that can solve that? So, and again, this is important to teach. Every time you're dealing with something new, make sure that reliability and repeatability is good. Make sure it's safe, that it's not going to start a fire or explode on anybody's face. Don't cut your fingers when you're building this thing. Make sure you have the appropriate tools and gloves if necessary, and any other things that you might think of that you want to make sure that they consider on their approaches. Finally, the government principles of the POP. Focus, again, you as teachers and mentors, focus on the aspect of problems that are important and the parameters that you can change. The weight, the shape, the material dimensions. Okay, the construction, make sure we are safe and cost and works. In a hull, minimize weight to reduce the drag of the hull. Make sure it floats, it's stable, that is not going to flip, you know. And track state, because most of these boats we have seen here, I don't see any rudders. And what happens when the boat is running like this? not only you have the drag of the water, now you have the friction of the walls slowing you down. So having something that can make the boat track and stay straight away from the walls is going to make your boat at least have a minimal drag energy just from the water, nothing else. Okay, so, and again, the integration of the hull to the engine. Again, we talked about a couple problems to point out. Okay, how do you put that engine and those two things together so that it becomes the most efficient for the purpose of the boat? Okay, think. These are things for you to have it in the back of your mind. So when you talk to your students and observe their testing and their creation, that you can, guide them appropriately.